Hi, welcome to Psychic Tapestry. I'm Ken Kessler, and she's Toni DeMaio. Hi, Toni.
Hi, Ken. Hi, everybody. Happy
And
Tuesday.
well, it is Tuesday.
It
For those who
is.
don't know, we are recording Psychic Tapestry via Zoom every other Tuesday, and then we get it posted in the next day or two. And I say next day or two because all of the different streaming services aren't the same, but it makes its way out. So you should be able to find it. In fact, if you're listening to this now at a time that's not Tuesday, May 7th, then you found us. So thank you. Toni, I didn't even get to tell you this.
Yeah.
I added something new to the podcast for people who are listening on their phone. When you are listening to an episode now, there should be a little thing in there with the show notes, a little button or a little clickable link where you can text Psychic Tapestry. So
Oh,
if you have a question or a comment about an episode, you can text us. This isn't
oh,
like
that's
text us
wonderful.
for a free reading, but it's if you have a question about one of the things that we were talking about or a comment that we weren't able to get to you or you weren't here. That's another way that you can connect. For now, for the live show, you have to be connected to us on Zoom, and I post the ID number for the episode usually on Mondays, the day before the show, and of course on Tuesday leading up to the podcast, so you can get it there. We also have a calendar on psychictapestry.com that will have the episodes in there, episode information in there, including the Zoom ID number, so that you can find us. If you have questions about it, I take it for granted because I've been using Zoom so much over the last 4 years,
Yeah,
5 years, something like
4
that,
years.
that I take it for granted that everybody knows and everybody doesn't know. So if you have questions about Zoom, message me through social media, facebook.com/psychic tapestry or at psychic tapestry on Twitter, assuming you use either of those. And I'll be glad to help you through it. If not, you can send me an email, ken@psychictapestry.com, any of that, and I will be happy to walk you through it. It's really simple. I mean, if I can do it, you can do it. It's very easy. You don't have to subscribe to Zoom. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just an easy way to communicate and to be able to reach what we hope will be a wider audience. It already is a wider audience, uh,
Yeah.
just from what we've done in these first couple of episodes, doing it in this style. So, so with that said, we can get rolling. Oh, the other thing, I guess we can't get rolling. The other thing that I did want to mention is that we also have a phone number so that if you don't want to use Zoom, you can call in. And I post that usually at some point Monday afternoon. I'll post the phone number so that you could call like you used to be able to call. It's a different number. I'm trying to work with Zoom and get one regular number that will always be
Oh,
the
that would
number
be
for
great.
us. But there's growing pains with the
Mhm.
move to this format, so I don't want to burden you with all of that garbage, but hopefully that's coming soon. In the meantime, you'll be able to find that on Monday afternoons, and then you can call if you'd rather, and we'll see how that goes too. For this episode, I wanted to talk about past lives. It's something that we touched on in the previous episode. Toni, we were talking about your metaphysical paths, and past
Yes,
lives is a big part of that. And we
it
didn't
is.
really delve into that topic because, well, you don't like to talk about yourself a whole lot. And,
I think
and
it was more that. You were
Yeah.
asking about my metaphysical path, and it started so young, and I am 76. So that's a lot of years on the metaphysical path. It was daunting, but your questions were very skillful, and I think
Thank
for
you.
the most part, seriously, I listened to the whole show to check it because it was a whirlwind in my mind, and I thought it was cogent, it was cohesive, and it worked out.
Well,
But I
thank you.
did forget. You're welcome. But that's because you were riding the ship. You were driving the plane.
Well, let's start with the basics. What are past lives?
Oh, okay. Well, I think we have to start with what is Earth if we're going to start with what are past lives. Earth, I believe, is this beautiful little paradise, a planet that actually is absolutely gorgeous. And I believe that it's set aside and tucked in this solar system here for people to come and learn their lessons. And that's why we incarnate on Earth. And it's our higher power is the one, of course, in control of everything. And this is what I believe to be so. So we come to Earth School to play out these little dramas on the Earth with our friends, our soul family, because we generally incarnate with the same group of people or different groups of people, because we have many groups of friends and relatives and soul connections because we've been here for so long. So we come with a soul family, and then we help each other learn our lessons. I also believe, and this I've only come to believe toward the end of my life, and with the knowledge that I have of the people that I know from this lifetime who were all in my past lifetime that I remember and wrote the book about. So all of those people, um, I'm very familiar with. I've been with them many, many, many times. And the way that you can tell that you're with your soul family is a feeling of familiarity when you first meet them. And like being a baby who remembers being born and all that, I remember the people that I recognized, like my dad, my grandmother, my mother. I knew who that was. I knew that I had difficult karma with her. It was like, uh-oh, here we go again. She's in charge this time. Good luck, me. I kind of figured that was going to be a big one. It was. I mean, it wasn't all bad. It was good too. We fixed a lot of things in this lifetime. And then other people like my aunt and my uncle, I don't think I ever saw them before in my life. I mean, as a baby, I could tell the difference. Certain cousins would be familiar, and some of them were very mischievous. They used to grab me. All the kids would be, there's a big Italian family. And like on Sunday, we'd be at one of the houses for dinner with all this dark mahogany furniture and immaculate homes and plastic on everything. And they would shove all the kids in a room. And here would come this one cousin in particular. I don't even know how he got in the family. His name was Buddy, and he had bright red hair. He would pick me up by my feet and swing me around as hard as he could. If he ever let go of my feet, I would have been killed. I will never forget that. And I could do nothing about it because it was before I could even talk. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that happened. I know I never knew that guy before. And I hope I don't ever see him again. I've conveniently lost contact with my cousin Buddy over these many years. I couldn't even tell you where he is. But seriously, so some people in our families, the point I'm trying to make, this explains why some people you're closer to, you have a better relationship with them, and other people, there seems to be something there that just doesn't feel right. And that's usually the karmic stuff that may have happened between the two of you. But we have a short memory and we're not going to remember all that. We're really not supposed to.
That's one of the
Yeah.
things that I'm always curious about because I've heard many people say that we're really not supposed to, but
Mm-mm.
but so many of us want to know.
That's why, because people get hung up on the wrong things.
Yeah.
I mean, we all want to know everything. And if we were involved in it, if our soul was involved, we're all going to want to know. But honestly, once you learn about a past life, it's kind of a burden. It's a burden that I've had my whole life because I started remembering it at the age of 3. And I didn't remember all the bad stuff till I got older because I was too young to, to process it. But the angels and guides got me used to the fact that I had been around in ancient times and older times. And I always had that. I just knew that that was part of my deal, that I was back and that I was supposed to make things right and that I was supposed to accomplish a certain number of things in this lifetime. And I was born knowing that. I was a little tiny kid born knowing that. I
Wow.
can't explain why that happened. And it's crazy, but it's true.
There does seem to be some stuff that's kind of baked into us, if you will, that we just do know. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I I believe that this is my last blast on Earth. I don't know how many lives I've had, but I believe that this is my last time and that my next time will be somewhere else.
Right.
And I don't know how I know that. I mean, nobody came by and told me. I don't have a little past lives card like a subway card that's all
Right.
filled out and that's it.
You punched all your cards.
Yeah,
The
I
card
punched
is
it all. I
punched.
got my free sub. I'm done. But I just, and I have often felt that while I don't believe that I'm a genius or super evolved or anything, I don't believe that I have brought anything into this life that I need to fix from past lives.
Well, that's good.
So I feel like that just from what I've heard and what we've talked about before, I feel like that just probably means that I've taken care of the important stuff previously. And I don't,
Exactly.
it's not something I need to fix here. Um, that said, how many past lives do you think people have?
I've done research on it and the wisdom, the going wisdom, which we can't prove, to tell you the truth. We're not going to know till we're dead and we get up there and find out. Is that some people have had thousands if they're old souls. They've been everything from cavemen to, on the court at Marie Antoinette's court to, I don't know, deepest Africa. I don't know. Another point is, do you believe that humans and animals also, you know, I'm sorry, that if, what am I trying to say? Do you believe that humans and animals are sometimes changing places? Like sometimes animals become humans and then humans become animals. I don't think that's possible. But
I
I
kind
think
of
if you study Hinduism, you might find that they have that belief.
I hope not because we're not very nice to animals.
I know.
And
And they're such
so
angels.
they
It's
are.
said that the animals are a part of the angel realm.
I saw a great quote and I don't know who it's from. It was from a child talking to
Yeah,
an adult and the kid and I guess that their dog had gone over the Rainbow Bridge,
yeah.
passed away, however you want to say it. And he said, I think I know why dogs don't live that long.
Oh,
He said, because we're all here to be better, learn how to be nice to each other, learn how to love each
right.
other. And dogs come in and they already know that. So they don't need to be here that long.
Isn't
I
that
thought
beautiful?
it is. And it's true.
Hmm.
But I'm leading us way off the topic.
No, it's
Um,
okay. I think that was beautiful. I
so
also saw that quote and I agree with it too.
you know, when you see a movie or TV show where they talk about past
Hmm.
lives, the person is always somebody famous in another life.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to know, well, who were you in a past life? Well, I was Abraham Lincoln or I was,
Mm,
whoever. And
right.
the reality is you were a goat herder with no
Right.
name, you know. You were
That's right.
not, we all weren't. Maybe somewhere through the mists of time you were someone significant, but I shouldn't say someone significant, someone famous. Maybe you
Yeah.
were over thousands of years, but you're not going to look back and go, "Oh, well, I was one of the I was on the Titanic and I was George
Right.
Washington and I was,
I've
because
actually had people approach me and tell me things like that
yeah,
in readings. And I go, okay, it's interesting. I'm
it
not going to
is.
tell anybody they're
And
a liar.
and there's no way to prove one way or the other.
No, no.
I know people who have had past life regressions and have said remarkable things um,
Mhm.
in the
Yeah,
guise of this past life. And I don't know. I think that would be really hard to fake, but it's also doesn't prove anything unless you
no.
can, I don't even know how you would be able to prove it. And really, with so much of,
Well, I do,
well, I think
but we'll get to
for
that later.
right, for the most part,
Yeah,
you
you
can't you
can't.
can't prove it, but that's really true in so much of metaphysical stuff. If
Mhm.
you talk to spirit, unless you
Yeah,
get some kind of concrete empirical evidence, it's and it really has to be something special, something that there's
mhm.
no possible way, like a locker combination or,
Yeah,
something like that. It's really hard to prove it when you're getting a reading and the medium gives you information. Usually you just have to trust how it feels.
that's a good point.
But it doesn't, but so much of of everything under metaphysics isn't something that you can, scientifically prove.
Mhm,
And past lives is certainly falls into that category.
mhm.
Um, I I have had a couple things happen to me that I think are past life related. One is a fear of heights,
Oh, yeah.
and I had an experience about 3 years ago, maybe maybe a little bit more, where we had gone to visit our son who was in school in Kansas, where I had never been to Kansas before. And
Mhm.
um, we saw him. We made our way to our hotel. We brought in our stuff, got settled in, turned out the lights. My anxiety went through the roof. And
Isn't that crazy?
it was dark and I could not sleep. And I just had this terrible feeling of being trapped underground, buried alive. And that's never happened. It never remotely anything like that. And I did not sleep a wink that night. I played on my phone.
Oh
I
my
did
God.
everything I could because anytime I closed my eyes, I was there. And I don't know, I can't prove that that
Right.
happened, that something in the past, in a past life, that
Yeah.
that's how I met, that's how it felt. And maybe being in that location was something that triggered the memory. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't have any idea, but I don't know how else to explain it. I have, since that happened, I have sort of developed um, claustrophobia,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's never been something that bothered me at all before. I usually work so much that I always felt, you know what? If there's enough room for me to lay down or lean on something and I can sleep, I'm fine. I don't care how close the walls are. But now flying on a plane is tough. Um, Being anywhere that's really confining, is difficult. And I don't know, I don't feel like I've brought something forward that I need to fix. I just feel like something got triggered and
I just asked for the answer for you, and I
uh,
pulled one card out of my past life cards, and I got imprisonment or slavery, and it shows an underground ancient prison.
okay.
That kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't know, I don't know what happened. If there was anything that happened, it could have been. I have heard so many things that sometimes when you get to a certain age,
Right.
and that was the age you were in a past life, that there's some sort of connection.
Yeah, that can trigger you.
And so it could have been that, it could have been the location, it could have been something else that I didn't really even notice. I don't
Yeah.
know. But but I don't have the feeling connected to it that there's something I need to do about it. That when you bring something forward from a past life that you need to karmically fix.
Right.
Um, I don't have that sort of feeling about it, that there's something that I need to do. And I
Yeah,
I, I don't
that's
know.
good.
I have been told that I was present in Ford's Theater the night that Lincoln was shot, that I was
Oh,
part
Lord.
of the Union Army. And I had a meditation where when I came out of it, I clearly heard somebody scream, "My God, they've shot the president." Um,
My
but
Lord.
I don't know. That's something that I feel was almost planted by suggestion. I don't know because I don't have any feeling about it.
Right.
I don't know. And even if it were the case, not a whole lot I can do. I can't go back in time and save
No,
Lincoln. So,
no, you can't.
um, and I figured out on my own when I got when I got my first pendulum, which is right here,
Oh,
and that's connected to my primary guide, Parker. And
yeah.
I was told that Parker was a twin brother from another life. And I have no way to prove that. I've asked him and and okay, see, he goes side to side and says yes. Um, but when I was sort of accepting things and learning things and starting down this path, I found this book on pendulums. And one of the things it did was it said how you could make like a little simple grid on a piece of paper and ask your guide to use the pendulum to point to things, but so you get more than just yes and no. So I asked Parker if he would do that, and he said yes. And I wanted to know when we were brothers. And because this whole idea of past lives was something new to me, I thought, okay, so this was about 10 years ago. So it's, 2013, 2014. I figure maybe 70, 80 years ago. So I put down different decades in the 20th century, and he didn't pick any of them. So
Hmm.
I put down some decades in the 19th century, and he didn't pick any of them. So then I just wrote 18th, 17th, 16th, 15th, and he didn't pick any of them. And I went back all the way into the 1300s. And instantly, when he said that that was when we were actually brothers, it just hit me that we died in the plague. Instantly, I just
Oh,
sort
my
of knew
Lord.
it. And I can't prove it. Um, his name was probably not Parker then. I'm sure my name was not Ken then either, but I just knew that. And then we just went back and forth over the centuries being guides for each other. And and here we are. Um, And I have no idea how many times we've done that. I could probably ask him, but it doesn't matter. How many times doesn't really matter. What I feel matters is that I just don't feel like there's anything that I have to fix or do or solve this time around to take care of something from a past life. And and that's it. I have never had a strong feeling about being anything. Like I knew someone who said that their brother, when he was very little, like under 5, and they were driving through a big city, and he glanced out the window at some building and he said, I remember when we were building that. And he talked about some of the specifics very quickly about how they had lunch somewhere up in the rafters and they were doing something else. And from a like a 4-year old,
Yeah,
it is amazing. But I never
that
had that
really,
kind of thing. But you from an early age
yeah.
had these feelings. When did it first hit you, and what did you feel like you just knew?
About the past life in regard to having lived here before.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I remember like around two and a half, like I said, I was dealing with a lot in that time period when you think about it, because the house was haunted. I didn't realize that's why there were so many ghosts in it. But anyway, I think I was kind of born just knowing that I'd been here before. And then, of course, Graham was teaching me, and she believed in reincarnation. She was a Christian who believed in reincarnation because she was from Unity, and they didn't call it that, New Thought, it was called at the time, I think. And I don't know, it was very early on. But when did I get proof that there was some truth to what I was
Well,
imagining my
well,
whole life and
before
dreaming
you get
about?
to the
That,
before you get to
okay,
the proof,
the proof.
what did you know or feel like you knew about your past life or lives?
I had such a strong fear of the Native Americans, and the bear grease and the fire. And I've always been terrified of fire. I'm also terrified of huge butcher knives. I've never used a large knife in my life. I'm terrified of knives. Nobody knows that. My son didn't even know that. We were just talking about it the other day, and he said, how come I don't know these things? Because he's only 20 years younger than me. And he kind of knows my whole life. And he goes, how do I not know that about you? I said, I guess I just was cool and I didn't say anything. I didn't want to scare you. But he just got a shock that he learned something about his old mom. But I guess I just knew that I knew the whole deal. I feel like I was born knowing a lot of this. And then as I heard the concepts, it was like, yes, I know that's true. I get goosebumps when I hear something I already know. And that's been my whole life. And I can tell when I'm hearing something I already know or something that's true versus something that's BS. And I just believed in it. It made sense. The whole idea of recycling people so that we can get better and try to come back and do better. I think it's amazing. I really do. And it makes sense to me. And that's probably why I believe it, because it has to make sense to you in order for you to accept it and believe it, right?
I know we've mentioned the movie Defending Your Life before.
I love that movie.
I love that too. And
Oh my God. That
you
was
know,
so great.
I kind of hope that that's what it's like. Um,
I'm sure it is.
I
It
just
felt real to me.
yeah, I really I
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that. If you don't
I
know
did
it, I'm
too.
sure it's streaming somewhere. Defending Your Life came out in the 90s. Albert
Yeah.
Brooks and Meryl Streep
Meryl Streep.
um are show up in the afterlife where you have to defend your life to see
Right.
if you're going to progress to whatever the next level is or go back and try again. And the whole thing is just very entertaining, and it
Mm-hmm.
does it does make you think.
Oh, yes. And
Huh.
for me it was yes, yes, they got it right. They got it right. They got it right. I mean, I was an idiot in the theater. I could hardly contain myself. I just was so excited that this movie was even made because I'd been waiting my whole life for enlightenment, and for people to catch up so I could write my book and publish it about my past life. Yeah, seriously. I was waiting most of my life for the world to catch up. That's how
So
I felt.
as a kid, you have these um
I was really
feelings.
never a kid, though, was I? Not really.
Well, chronologically,
And I was a kid actor on top of everything, which kind of made it easier because I could act.
but you learned or relearned or remembered these a past life. And how did you decide to investigate it?
Okay, great question. Great question. Because, all right, it started coming to me when I was little, and I made the comment to my parents. I was burned by the Indians in a covered wagon, but I lived that day. But others died, and they just said, "Oh, okay, dinner at 6," like you said. Another great story, Tone. We love it. Keep them coming. And but then I could talk to Grandma on Saturday, and she would confirm everything. And she would say, "Yes, you're remembering a past life. That makes sense." So when did I decide to research it? So I fast forward into my 20s, and I knew that it was time to start writing. So what is the first thing that flowed out of my pen? The first scene of that book, of the book. I mean, of the past life. And I'm just writing about her on a wagon train going through and I could feel the dust. It was choking me. Can you imagine a dusty old wagon train? You're going across the country, across Pennsylvania on these dirt roads. Can you imagine the dirt and the dust and the heat of the summer? It was just so oppressive. And I'm writing this thing and I'm feeling every second of it. I almost couldn't stop writing. So some of it I would just automatic write. Other parts I would dream and then wake up and write it. Now, the research part came when I went back to college to learn for creative writing for adults. It was adult school, adult classes. And it was a published writer, and I was on the East Coast, so she was a New York woman, a New York writer. She had really good connections too. Anyway, it was a fascinating course of study, and I kept taking the course over and over and over. And I learned so much from her. And she said, "You have written this amazing." I mean, she loved the book. I wrote it as a romance novel with just the one story in it originally. And I thought I would just publish it as a romance novel. And I figured this was a past life romance that I had had. It was just one aspect of the story that I eventually told in the Heart trilogy. So she said, "You have to research and find out. How did people eat? How did they dress? What did they look like? Do you have everything right here? You act like you know everything about this period. Do you know anything about it?" "Nope, not a damn thing." She said, "Okay." So I started to research. I had written about the National Road, which went from, I said, from Boston to through Pennsylvania, and it kind of ended when you had to go down the Allegheny River on these barges to get to Marietta, Ohio, which was the way west. And I was right. I had it all right. I mean, I had so many things right. She couldn't even believe it. I had the dress right. I had everything right. And I can't explain that any other way. I'd seen psychics over my lifetime up to that point. I was maybe close to 30 then, and they had told me I was writing about a past life. But then I found the actual wagon train that I was on. And because I had written that they had come up with the idea of bringing craftsmen to Marietta, Ohio, because that's where they needed more craftsmen. So That was what the wagon train was all about that I was on. My dad was a blacksmith, and they had talked him into it because my mother had died that year. And I was mad because I was a little witch. I really was. Little self-serving little thing. And I was an artist, and I was a female. And my dad was, would he really spoiled me. He was a drunk Irishman, and a lot of fun. So I do all this research and I find that these people actually lived. And I was able years later to go to see the house. The house, their home was preserved because Mr. Putnam, or Rufus Putnam, was the founder of that colony, and he had established it. And I ended up marrying him halfway back across the prairie or whatever, because my dad had died, and he was an older minister, and he had a crush on me. But anyway, so I married him because he was offering me a life. I was only 16, and I would have had to go back. I had no other relatives because my mother's family had disowned her because she was wealthy and my dad was just a blacksmith. So basically, my name, though, I had my first name wrong, called myself Jessamine. My actual name was Jerusha. It's not a very pretty name, but I had the J. And the last name was Putnam. So I had the last name right, and I had the players right. And I was able to find all sorts of information. It was unbelievable. And I found it at Princeton Library because I was a Jersey girl. And I figured I'll go to Princeton Library to do my research because they had the best library. And I can find out about Ohio in Princeton. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have been able to because the normal library didn't have as much information on the history of every state. And we're talking about what, the 90s, I think now, or maybe the 80s. No, the 80s. 80s. That's when I found out that I had the last name right, which changed my life. I knew it was true.
Was this past life 1700s,
Yep.
earlier
Late
1700s?
1700s,
Okay.
early 1800s. I even had the dates right. I have pictures of the church where I got married to the minister. And I had written that it had these huge oak doors that were like they were huge, just massive. And darned if that church that Joe, my ex-husband and I, he went with me. And as we came up from the river, we went down by the river. We were walking. We found the plaque that said that the people had landed there. That's where all the wagon trains floated down the Allegheny on these barges. And then they would walk up to Marietta. So as we walked up, they had kept historic Marietta true to what it was. And I could stand, and I stood on the top of the hill. I was hyperventilating. I almost had a heart attack. I swear to you. I couldn't believe it. And there's the church. And I said to Joe, I grabbed him. I said, if that church was built before we got married in it, then I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, this is crazy. So we get up to the church, and it was built 2 years before we got there. The wagon train landed. So it had been a brand new church, just as I wrote, and it was straight ahead through the town, and you could see it right there. And it had massive oak doors that just took your breath away. And as we walked in, I could barely walk in. I mean, I couldn't even be inside these places. It was so freaky. I didn't know how to process. And the
Yeah.
house was even more amazing because it was the only 2-story house in town. I had written that, and it was the only 2-story house in town. I found that I got that confirmation. And they have it preserved inside of a museum. So we got to go in the house. I told Joe, this is the kitchen. The kitchen's here. This is where, and the huge, kitchen for cooking with like a walk-in oven kind of area. It was just unbelievable. So primitive. And then the upstairs, I knew where the baby's room was. I knew where his office had been. And I knew where the bedroom was. It wasn't too hard to find, but I just went to each place. And they were set up as if they were actually these rooms. That blew my mind. That was my confirmation. And then even freakier, they had the profiles of both of the people, of Putnam and Jerusha. They only had profile portraits, but it was, I swear, it was my profile. And that was freaky because I can't explain that. And it was Joe's big hawk nose. And I knew Joe had been the minister because I had to do a lot of karma back to poor old Joe.
Most people, when they have some kind of feeling about a past life, will never be fortunate enough to get that kind of validation.
And you know what? Even though poor Joe had his issues, he was the one who made that happen for me. And he literally he knew that I needed to know. And he said, "We're going to Marietta." And I couldn't believe he did that. And we did. We'd gone back east to visit friends and family, so we just tacked that on the end of it. And it was one of the greatest trips I've ever been on.
Yeah,
Changed
I
my
bet.
entire life. Mm-hmm. Yep.
How long, how long before you kind of came down from that high of
Oh my! I
finding
don't
all
think
of
I ever have. I still look at the pictures and I just shiver all over. I don't want to go back to that house though. It freaks me out. I mean, to see everything so old is what freaked me out. Just the age, like they have their blankets on the bed, this original stuff. It just kind of, I mean, they literally had preserved their home. So it was really the Putnam's home. And in front of the fireplace, two rocking chairs, which I had written about. I mean, that's not too unusual to have two rocking chairs in front of a fireplace. But it was just the fact that I had written it. And the grandfather clock was there. I had written about that. This grandfather clock that she had brought, it was from France, from her mother. And it made so much, it was so important to her to bring that clock. I had so many details. It was pretty amazing.
are there I I don't even know if you know this. Are there any surviving members of the Putnam
Yes,
bloodline? Have you
yes. And
been
I'm
in
not
touch with
about
them?
to, no,
I was just
I'm
curious.
insane. You're going to think
But
I'm
did you want
insane.
to? Did you want
No,
to? No?
no. Poor people. I'm not going to go show up like a crazy person and say, it's just too long ago. I mean, no, no. And I don't know these people. They don't know me from Adam, but
But
it was fascinating.
it never crossed your mind to get in touch with them?
No, no,
Really?
not at
I mean, I
all.
have no idea what you would say.
Yeah. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah. Hi. In a previous life, I was your great 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 grandmother.
Yeah. And they'll say, okay,
Okay.
dinner at
Thanks.
6.
Thanks.
That's a good one, Tony.
Thanks for coming by, crazy lady. Yeah.
I think one thing I've learned over the years is maybe not to tell everything I know, which was one of Graham's directives to us as little kids when we do bad. She'd let us do bad things. She'd go, "Now I'm not asking you to lie, but you don't have to volunteer and tell everything you know." I love that. We would laugh, my little brother and I. Would say, "We're okay, Grandma. We got you. We're not gonna tell."
Now, do you do past life regressions?
Well, I did at your show, on your first show. That you ever had me on because my guide said to do it. So I no, I actually don't do the regressions.
Okay.
I had one once, which is interesting. And I remembered a ton of other past lives, and it wore me out so bad that I never want to do that again. And it was unproductive. But I saw my other relatives, like we were Eskimos and little Gabriel, who I'm so close to. I was running across the tundra or whatever it was, and there was a polar bear or something chasing us. I don't know what it was, but he ended up through the ice and dead. And it was just awful.
Now,
And there were just so many different lives that had tragic ends and misery and stuff. And I wore myself out, and I said, there's no sense doing that.
Now, I
We
have
all know.
somebody close to me whose permission I do not have to tell this story, so I'm going to have to make it,
Okay.
I'm going to have to really vague it up.
Okay.
But something happened to them, something triggered these feelings and memories, and literally to the point where they felt like they were just losing their mind. And they somehow knew that they needed to get somebody to who does past life regressions to get some help. And I know that sounds a little convoluted, but I'm leaving out a lot of details on
No,
purpose.
I
But
understand.
um, but they did this, and they did get to go back to this past life and see their brother from that past life
Oh,
and
wow.
have an exchange with them that lifted the anxiety weight when they came back.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was really amazing and amazing. I wasn't there in the room for the regression. I but I was there with this person when they were having their crisis
Oh, wow.
and shortly afterwards when they were healed. And it was, I don't know exactly what happened, but beyond what they told me, but it was
Hmm.
amazing, an amazing transformation and an amazing healing, which made me more of a believer in past
Hmm.
lives because I don't know how else to explain
Right. What
this
happened?
the way that it happened. And I just wonder, for people who aren't on necessarily metaphysical path, and I'm guessing they're probably not listening to this podcast, but
Right.
for people who maybe are and just don't recognize the signs, what are some of the things, if you can even list some things
Okay.
that might happen that would lead you to believe you need to go through a past life regression to sort things out?
Exactly. I've got a common one and I share it. I have asthma in this lifetime. And I had a dream years ago. I guess I was probably still in my 30s, where I was in this white robe and all these people were yelling at me. And my hands were tied behind my back. And I was up on the top of this, I think it was a grain elevator of some sort. And they were going to throw me into the grain elevator to smother because I think, I don't know what I'd done, but I'd had an affair with somebody that I wasn't supposed to be with. And I'm not real clear on that. But I do know that I woke myself up just before I went down into that grain. And I thought, wow, well, if you're going to have asthma, that would be a good reason to have asthma.
Yeah.
And it kind of occurred to me. And I've known other people who have had past life regressions because of breathing issues, and they find out things like that, or a fear of heights, and they were like pushed off a mountain, you know, or fell off a mountain or whatever, and had a horrific fall,
See,
which would be kind of scar you for all lifetimes,
I don't
right?
have a particular feeling about a past life that's connected to my fear of heights, but I'm also not interested in, picking at that. I
Yeah.
I don't it if it if it was something that got in my way now, something that
Yeah.
made living day to day difficult,
Right.
then I would try and get to the bottom of it, so to speak.
Hmm.
That's awful to say about
Yeah.
heights, but
Yeah. Well, some people can't drive over a bridge
yeah.
or they can't fly, so they have to do something. because it's impacting their lives. But
Right.
if it isn't impacting your life, there's no reason to go looking for trouble. That's
Yeah.
the way I look
In
at it.
fact, I live in a pretty small town now, and there aren't too many buildings anywhere that are more than 3 stories. So it's not
That's
gonna,
good.
yeah, it's not gonna, and I don't, that's not why I live here, but it's for that particular reason. It's a nice perk for me
Oh,
because
yeah.
I don't do heights, but it doesn't,
Yeah.
if there was some reason I had to be a window cleaner for a high-rise building,
Oh my God. Could you imagine? I could never do that.
no, I can't
That's
even imagine.
insane.
Just thinking about it gives me,
Well, me
yeah,
too. You got to
yeah.
be crazy to do something like that.
But
I
if
think.
that's, but and I know sometimes the way this works, and it's different for everybody, but sometimes the way this works is that it doesn't happen right away. It can be, like I was talking about the being buried alive thing, it can be triggered by different things, your age,
Hmm.
location, other certain events. So you could be a window washer for high rise or multiple high rises.
Hmm.
Um, and you could be doing it happily for years and have no problems. And then all of a sudden, one day, I don't know, you turn 40, you something, I don't know, something happens and you can't go up there. You just can't.
Yeah.
That's
Can you
when you need
imagine?
to find somebody who can, that's the kind of thing that you would you would need some kind of help on.
Yeah.
It would be nice if there was some way to prove past lives. I mean, I know that you proved it for you.
Yeah. That was enough proof for me.
More
I proved it to myself, which is
right. And
first person I had to prove it to.
so much of things in under the metaphysical umbrella are things that
Hmm.
you can prove to yourself, but to be able to prove to
A court.
skeptical
Yeah.
public,
Yeah.
it difficult, if not impossible.
Well, it depends, first of all, on your belief system. If you don't even believe in past lives, you're not going to believe that someone's had one.
Right.
So it depends on your belief system. So you have to know your audience when you're talking about this stuff. But if people have an interest in it, they love to hear about it. And
Oh,
people are very curious about their own past lives, even though they say that there is nothing to be gained from just knowing random past lives. And I tend to agree because all I did was wear myself out with that regression. I'll never do that again. It's a whole day. I've done it actually twice. And all I've gotten is a bunch of sad stories about how me and my relatives have all died so many different ways all over the world in all different
uh,
time periods.
that is
That was the
that is
bottom line, you know?
that is a good point because
Yeah,
if you're digging into all of these past lives,
yeah,
obviously
they're over.
you died in all of them because you're here
Yes.
now.
And that's what
So,
they take you to the end of it. They take you to the
yeah.
moment of death. I mean, I just thought, why do people pay to do this? I don't know. I got talked into it 2 times. So I'm done. I did my share.
Well, and I am a firm believer in if you feel no particular connection to a past life,
Yeah,
no burden of righting a wrong or
right. You're
whatever,
good.
you're good. Let it
You're
go.
good.
Don't,
I know that's true.
yeah.
That is true. Because
And
I came here on steroids, ready to fix this past life. And this past life has been in my face since birth. And now it's kind of fading away a little. It's not a big priority because I did what I was supposed to do. And I'm glad I did. I'm grateful I had the opportunity. And no, everything wasn't perfect, but I'm proud of the way that I comported myself in each of these relationships. And I know that I stood by the people and I was true to them and, you know, and kind.
at this point, you have made peace with past lives, your past lives.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I have, and I really have, and I feel like it's good, and I'm glad that I remembered it, and I'm glad that it's over.
So next time around, just a victory round?
Yes,
Oh, that sounds good.
yes, definitely. Yep.
I don't feel so much that this, I feel very fortunate, very blessed with my life, but I don't feel so much that this was a victory lap because it hasn't been all smooth sailing or any of that kind of stuff. And maybe it
But
would have
nothing
been,
is,
but
nothing
nothing
is
is, and it
ever.
might have been
No.
boring. But
Yeah,
there are some days where I think, boring wouldn't be so bad.
I know, but look at your journey. It's
I
amazing.
know.
We all go through so many things in life, and here we learn and we grow and we come out on top. And
I
that's
think
all that matters.
I think I have a pretty blessed highlight reel. But
Oh, I bet you do.
but but the uh day to day, that's another podcast.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think what do you think people should know about past lives?
That they have them, because I think it's good for people to know that Earth is an opportunity to learn, and that you really are here. Oh, and another point. I have come to believe that God does not make you do anything to pay anything back. God just wants you to be happy and come here, exercise your free will, free choice, which of course gives you free choice to mess your whole life up too. But you have that honor to do that if that's what you want to do to yourself. But they should know that they've had them, and that they will have more, most likely. They will have more until, according to my dad, who died in 71, and he came and got me because I mourned way too hard for my dad. We were very close. I was only 23 when he died. And he said that we do come back until we get to join with the great white light that is God, that is the higher power. He said it isn't a man, it's a great white light. It's a force for goodness. It's pure love. And he told me this in 1971, which was very progressive at that time. And he did not believe any of this on earth. He told me this when he was dead. And he said, and when you have gone through all of your lives, and you're like, I guess, like Mother Teresa, you just given your life to service and caring for others, and you probably never say an unkind word to anybody. Then you get to join with the God light, meaning you go into higher realms of heaven. That I interpreted it to mean that, because I know there are different levels, and all my relatives seem to be on a very earthly looking plane. It's just very beautiful and bright, and have more flowers and trees and mountains and streams and pretty things. But it looks very much like Earth.
Yeah.
And I've seen where Graham was. Let me just finish that, because it's a
Okay.
contrast. She's on a higher level, Graham, that has like the Akashic Records building is where she is, and there are these little covered bridges and just like amazing flowers and waterfalls. But all the buildings are white, and they just have openings, or like how should I put it? There's no like windows or doors. They're just beautiful openings that the souls float back and forth through. But it's a much higher level. You can feel that it's higher. It's a lot of white and gold. The colors are more high vibrational. So I think she's probably about halfway up there, all
See,
the way to heaven.
I feel like with a lot of this stuff
Yeah.
that it's I don't want to say it's stuff that we're not supposed to know, but I think it's stuff that we don't need to know. I think
No, we
that's
don't
more it.
know it.
Your past lives, you really most people don't need to know
No,
whether you were Abraham Lincoln or not. I feel like I'm
no.
picking on Abraham Lincoln. But
Yeah.
you don't need to know that. And you don't need to know where you're going next. Because I think if you knew that, it sort of dictates where you are now and what you do
Yeah.
if you know. And I don't think you need to. I think
Well, I think
we're all
everybody's going to the other side.
yeah,
And if you ask for forgiveness, you get it.
but
So I don't really,
I mean as far as where you're going next, the whole thing about levels, or if you're done on Earth School and you're going to, I
yeah.
don't know, someplace in the Andromeda galaxy
Well,
or
we don't
whatever.
know.
We don't
We
know,
don't
and
know.
we
We
don't
don't
need
know.
to know.
No, we don't.
But that doesn't stop us from wanting to know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, we're human.
Yeah.
We want to know. If the whole Garden of Eden story is even true, I mean, there you go. We want to know.
Yes, we do.
So
Yeah.
that would be a great way to end it. I should have thought about that. But we've got a bunch of people here, and I
Yes.
don't know if anybody has any questions about past life stuff, or want some kind of.
Well, let's ask.
So yeah, Tony, do you do some kind of like a past life?
I can do a past life reading for you.
Okay,
I have
okay.
cards, and if anybody, or if you just want a regular card, or if you would like
Well, let's keep
ask
it
a
to no.
question.
Let's keep it to past lives for tonight. So
Okay.
it's a whole nice theme.
Okay.
Um, I'm just gonna ask
Ask
if
them if they have questions.
yeah.
Joe was first, actually.
Let me go to Joe because Joe was first last time or the time before, and he ended up being last, even though he was first here. But Joe's first here. Joe, do you have some kind of past life question for Tony?
Not really.
Okay. Do you have any sense of a past life that you might have lived? You're such a
Um,
creative person. I
well,
bet you.
Peyton's mom always told me that I was her gardener and
Oh
that I
my
was paying her back by taking care of her this life.
God. I love it. Did that resonate with you?
It was good for her, so I thought it was fine.
It was fine. It was fine. Oh, wow. Oh my God, you got such a beautiful card, Joe. It's called Trust and Faith. It's a picture of an angel. Now let's see what that means in regard to a past life. I'm going to look that up.
Well,
It's no
used to
number.
I would feel like when I felt really strong pleasure or displeasure with somebody that it was I knew them in a past life, and now that I'm Reiki master, I know that's not
Yeah,
necessarily the truth. It's more energy.
that's true too. It is energy, but you can also have known them in a past life and have those feelings because of that. I would say that your intuition is on point and you should listen to it. But trust and faith, maybe we just are supposed to take that as being having trust and faith in the angels and God. The
Finally.
question that you're asking today is connected to the levels of trust and faith that you have. These two qualities affect the amount of fulfillment, peace, and joy that you experience. If you find that you don't trust yourself, others, or even life itself, the reason may be rooted in prior lifetimes. This card may also indicate a past lifetime where you were betrayed by a specific person who is in your current life. This is also true with respect to the amount of faith you have in the universe or God. Look at the other cards that you drew surrounding this one for clues. Okay, and you got Asia and medicine man or woman, which I believe I could see you as medicine man or woman for definitely sure in a past life. You drew this card as a sign to have faith and trust that your prayers have been heard and are being answered. While it's true that you learned from your past, it's also important to live in this moment without clouding it with past pain. And if your faith and trust issues are directed at certain individuals, listen to these feelings. as they may be red flag warnings to heed. You can forgive someone for past lifetimes and also follow your inner guidance to avoid him or her if it is warning you to distrust this person. So basically, your angels are telling you that your intuition is on point in regard to trust and faith. And maybe some of your issues with certain people are from past lifetimes.
I believe that right now.
I I do too, especially what you've been, what I know. It's true.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Well,
There was
thank you, Joe.
confirmation. Thank
Thank you.
you, Joe. Thank you for showing up and being
You
so
know,
loyal.
Joe brought up an interesting point when somebody said that he was their gardener. You feel like there's any particular time frame from when one life ends and the next one begins?
I think it varies and it depends on the length of the lifetimes and on the agenda of the soul. Sometimes people stay 100 years here on the other side before incarnating again. They're also going to spirit school, learning lessons on the other side, working through things, resting, whatever. It depends.
I know I had talked to one in spirit who has been gone for, well, at the time had been gone for almost 60 years. And I did ask why they hadn't come back yet. And the response was, there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Leah, do you have a past life question?
Yes, I would like to know about our abilities. So our abilities from the past life, if we bring those from back then to now, and
Yes.
are they still the same strength, or are some in different, like in other words, different abilities or whatever? I know that there's certain things that I've been drawn to, like the Indian, not that, well, actually the Indian culture, the Western, and then of course the Indian culture from like what Toni, what you were talking about from back in the Western days, the Indians then. Um, so I don't know how all of those, if we bring those in and um if they're stronger in, certain lives than others. And I guess
I,
that's the
I
question.
think so. I think so, Leah. I really do. I know that when I was writing the book about my past life, I'd been an artist in that life. And during the writing of the book, the first draft, I got so interested in art that both my mother and my grandmother were oil painters. And suddenly I got an interest in it. And and so I learned how to do it, how to do the canvases. But I found that I can't create art in this lifetime out of my head. I can copy a picture, but I can copy it perfectly. So it
Yeah,
looks like really good. Like I can make something that looks good. But
right.
anyway, but I realized that I had brought some of that over with me, but not all of it, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. And then think about babies who just get up when they're toddlers, go over to the piano and play a concert pianist,
Right. Yeah, the
level
perfect.
performances. I mean,
Uh-huh.
where does that come from? It has to come from past lives. Happens a
Yeah,
lot with music that you see it in children.
yeah.
So I do believe we do bring things with us, but
Right. The
sometimes
hobbies.
we don't. Yeah, but sometimes we don't tend to do it again if we've already done it. But then
Yeah.
again, we might. I don't really know. I know nothing.
No, thank you.
I do. I know nothing. I have lived long enough to know that I know nothing. It's
I
true.
just
He's laughing. He loves it.
it's
We're doing a
curious,
podcast and I say I know nothing. But
no,
it's true in the
yeah,
grand scheme of things, right?
right.
What do you know?
It's kind of
And
something that you think about if you're going into your future life. Will you have the same abilities, or will you still carry some of your abilities and hobbies and interests and everything into your future life that you have or that
yeah,
you were drawn to in your past life? So since it's
I
all
believe you do, and I believe you will. I feel like you've had a lot of Native American connection because that's what came up for you, and also your spouse. I think you and your husband have been together more than once,
Right. Right.
lots of times together. I can feel that. That's a great love story.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
are
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
having a question. I love it.
Yes. Thank
You
you.
know,
That's
that's
sweet.
that's really interesting because I had forgotten about this. I remember somebody had told me that they saw me as a traveling minstrel in another
Oh,
life
I love that.
with, with my brother and with a group of other people. And music has certainly followed me into this life. I don't know how many lives ago that was. But it felt real. Although, if I were to go from town to town singing now, I would be stoned to death probably because I can't carry a tune in a bucket with a handle on
Aw,
it. But I
aw,
still have that love of music. Um,
you sure
and
do.
I always I always have. So,
I love
let's
it.
squeeze in one more.
Yes.
Hi, Karen.
Yeah.
Do you have a past life question for Tony?
Uh, I've done several Akashic records. It all started with a dream that put me through a past life when I was in my
Ooh,
20s. But my theme has
tell
been
us.
martyred. I've been martyred multiple times, and I've
Oh,
been doing work on how that's connected to all the injuries and scars that I have in this life. I'm still working on it, but
that's
it's all coming together.
fascinating.
Yeah, I've done about 8 different uh, theories. It even connected me to my haunted house that I had in my early 20s. I just
You
made the
too
connection
lived in a
2 weeks
haunted
ago.
house? I didn't even know.
They were from those entities were me and people that I was with, and I didn't
Oh,
make the connection until 2 weeks ago.
oh my Lord.
So it's been an interesting ride, and I'm going to continue. I've got another journey to take on it because there's a lot of healing being done, both this world and off world, because of it.
Absolutely.
So I didn't even realize it was there until I got to see the picture of it. But the Akashic, going and doing that work, I kind of looked at it as kind of some new age bull stuff. I didn't really, because I was kind of the same theory of, what is the point? It's over and done.
Yeah,
But it
right.
doesn't influence us so much.
Oh, that is
So,
fascinating. So
so
you've
yeah,
remembered this past life?
multiple ones, yeah. Now,
Oh my Lord. You've
and
got to write a book. You need to write a book.
it's certainly interesting in how it's relating to the scars that I have in this life.
It is amazing. I mean,
Because
it's
I've
fascinating. Once you make the connection, isn't it amazing?
Yes. And I'm so intrigued with how you went through that massacre and everything, because that happened to me once, and that's what tied me to this house
Oh,
that I had before, because a massacre happened there.
oh my God.
So that was really interesting because it was very brutal and awful.
Yeah,
But it's also that lesson, that we all
yeah.
have with the humanity and everything. But any card you pull, I'm interested to see what direction it goes.
Well, what we got was wisdom. I think you've gained a lot of wisdom in this lifetime. And there's a beautiful unicorn on the cover of the card. On the front of it. And it
On the
said,
front.
this card indicates that you have tremendous wisdom and knowledge from prior lifetimes that is seeking to resurface now, even if you've never thought of yourself as particularly wise, but you are wise. We all know that. This card indicates that you learned important lessons and information that will serve you and others if it's reawakened now. This card can indicate that it's time for you to return to school or seek additional education of some sort. This may even be a path that you're changing, be a sign that you're changing your career path. Your reemerging knowledge is guiding you toward work that is more meaningful. This card asks you to believe in yourself and know that you have what it takes to tackle a career related to your true interests and passions.
Wow,
Wow.
thank you.
Toni, I won't keep you very much longer. Leah had another question, and I'm going to let her ask
Yes.
it.
Go right ahead, Leah, honey. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so the connection that you and I and Karen and I and even like
Yes.
with Joe, like us taking the classes
Yes.
together and then being here with Ken, but like our connection, our bond that we have, especially,
Yes.
with you and Karen, is it
And
from
you too.
related in our past life also? Like being
Oh,
sister,
probably.
mother,
Yes.
daughter, or even like
Yes.
Joe being a brother or really close friend, and same with Ken, because
Yes.
Ken and you as well have been, connected for years.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that was my question there.
Yes. When we meet our soul family, we recognize each other, and these are people that stick out as very special. And we've all said how special we all think we are to each other. And that is the truth. And you can't get connection like that unless it's soul connection. And that means soul family. And we've run into each other in past lifetimes. Definitely. I agree. I've always felt that.
Well,
Thank you.
You are welcome.
I
Yes.
had I don't remember exactly what it was that Karen had said, but it made me think of this. I know people listening aren't going to be able to see this. I don't know if I have an amethyst stone on a necklace that I
Oh,
always wear.
beautiful.
And this is connected to what I call all of the me's. It's
Yeah.
it's all of my past lives. And I
Wonderful.
in a meditation I was guided to ask, and it has great energy, and it also focuses that energy so I don't get bombarded with different sort of past life things, which helps. And after that incident in Kansas where I've had the whole buried alive thing, um,
Oh, my Lord, honey.
that really that has really helped a lot. And I don't know, I'm not a magician or sorcerer or whatever to make that happen, but I simply found a stone that I really liked and invited all of that energy to connect through that rock. And it does. And it has made a big difference, and I have it with me all the time.
That's
Uh,
beautiful.
so
What
so
a good idea, too. I think I'm going to do that. You designated that stone
yeah,
for
I
your past
found
life.
I when I go to a rock shop or metaphysical store where they have lots of stones and lots of rocks on strings and stuff, I figure that I'm gonna let it pick me, and I
Yeah,
walk around until I notice one that is trying to be noticed,
right.
and it just feels right, and I just always know that that's the one for me, and that's what I did, and I picked this up, and I didn't know why when I picked it up, but I just picked it up and I had to have it, and it's amethyst, so that was cool. And
It is
um
cool.
and then I was guided to invite that energy in, and it's like a necklace, but I used it as a pendulum to ask, and I got a yes, and
Yeah,
the
there
rest,
you
as they
go.
say, is history.
History.
Um,
Very good.
well, we went way over, but that's the luxury of doing the podcast this way. We can
Yeah,
do that without anybody shutting us off. So we were able to talk to a bunch of people, which was really nice.
very
And
cool.
I was able to make Toni tell a bunch of stories tonight, which was also good. So
It
thanks
was
everybody
fun.
for coming, and thank you to everybody who is listening to this later. Toni and I are here on Zoom. We're trying to do this every other
Yes.
Tuesday and get back on schedule. Every other Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern, there will be an entry in the calendar on psychictapestry.com with the member ID number. I think that's what Zoom calls it, that you'll need to find
Yeah.
us. And I'll also post it on our social media. Facebook.com/Psychic Tapestry and at Psychic Tapestry on Twitter. So you can find that. Toni posts it all over the place too. So
Yeah.
between the two of us, you should be able to find it if you'd like to join us live. If you're cool with just listening to it later, that's great. The Psychic Tapestry podcast is all over the place now, and you can find us on
It really is.
your favorite streaming site, and then subscribe, and you'll never miss another episode.
Yeah.
At least I hope
Thank
you won't.
you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
you. Thank you all for coming. We love you so much.
And
I
Toni,
mean, really.
Toni, thank you
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
braving your way through this despite your battling allergies, and I hope you'll get some
I
rest
don't know what it is, but I think it's getting weaker. So I don't know.
and then
But
drink a
I'm
bunch of
still
water.
above ground. Yeah, I'm doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody, and have a great evening and rest of the week and the rest of next week, and take care of yourselves and tell people close to you that you love them. And we'll see you
Yes.
soon.
Bye, everybody.